Hi, this is James Black. I'm one of the instructors for the Measurement and Instrumentation course at Montana State University. I'm making this video as a general introduction to LabView because we're going to be using it in our labs for that course. So this is just intended to get students familiarized with the very basics of LabView. Just the big picture stuff like what is it? Why do we use it? I'll start out by saying that it's a really popular program, really widely used in industry. If you're going to be doing any kind of measurements, testing, controls, which you likely will, then you will likely be using LabView. I've had a lot of students either report that they went off for an internship and they used a lot of LabView during their internship, or when they started their career, they were using LabView and they just let me know how things are going and that they were using it there. So it is commonly used, and on top of that, we use it in our labs here, and we have a final in our labs. So even if you're in a group where somebody already really knows how to use LabView, which happens sometimes, don't just let them use LabView, because that final is going to be a one-on-one, and you're going to have to demonstrate that you know how to use LabView for that. So now moving on to the question of what is LabView, why do we use it? I thought it would be best to start with a video that is professionally done and has a lot of nice images from LabView, well, from National Instruments. National Instruments makes LabView. So this video is from them, and they're just telling you what is LabView.
LabView is software designed for the fast development of any engineering application that requires test, measurement, or control. There are two things that make LabView uniquely valuable for engineers. The first is the fast and extensive hardware integration, available for everything from benchtop instruments and PC-based data acquisition boards to software-defined radios and FPGA-based embedded computer hardware. Second is LabView's graphical approach to programming. This means that you can program the way you think using a flowchart-like method called graphical data flow to move data from one function to another. LabView recompiles its code with every action, which means you can detect and fix coding errors as they happen, rather than having to compile and fix things at the end. Additionally, LabView represents parallelism in your code naturally, and the graphical nature makes this easy to visualize. Core engineering IP, such as fast Fourier transforms, limit testing, and PID algorithms, are included in LabView already, with a host of specialty algorithms available as add-ons, all guaranteed to be compatible and quickly combined. Download the LabView evaluation today to discover how you can use LabView to integrate hardware, visualize data.
Okay, that's the first video, and then here's another video from LabView from National Instruments about LabView. Shows you some of the actual screenshots, like the windows that you're going to see in the graphical programming environment.
Hi, my name is Vineet, and I'm going to introduce you to the LabView programming environment. LabView is a graphical programming environment, and a LabView program is called a VI. VI stands for Virtual Instrument, and if we look over to the computer here, you can see I've already started with a blank, brand new VI. A VI is made up of these two main windows that are shown. This gray window here called the front panel, which serves as the user interface for the LabView program. And then this white window here, which is the block diagram, which serves for the functional graphical code that you create in LabView. If I put these two windows side by side, I can show you a little bit about how they work. I can right-click anywhere while this front panel is active, so anywhere on this gray window. And as I right-click, you'll see I get the controls palette. And here's where I can drop down whatever user interface functions I'd like. So I can drop down knobs and buttons, different graphs and displays, and really anything I'd like the user to be able to interact with, and any way that I'd like to be able to visualize data from my program. I can also drop down text blocks, so a text or a string indicator, for example. And I can also resize and recolor any of these items to my liking. Now if you notice, every time I drop down an item on the front panel, there's a corresponding terminal that appears on the block diagram. So if I double click on this string, for example, you can see it takes me to the block diagram that it's associated with, the item on the block diagram that it's associated with. The block diagram, as we said before, is really where the graphical code resides. And now if I right-click, I actually get a different set of functions that are available to me. These are programming functions like structures, numerical or mathematical functions, different Boolean or string functions. And if you notice, it's different than if I were to right-click on the front panel. So I'll show you again. If I right-click on the front panel, I get the controls palette. If I right-click on the block diagram, I get the functions palette. Let's create a very simple LabView program by deleting everything except the string box that I've created. And I'm going to move this a little bit higher on the front panel. And now when I right-click on the block diagram, I'm actually going to go to the string palette, and I'm going to drop down a string constant. So when I drop this down, this is where on the block diagram I can set up some string variable, for example. Now, depending on where I hover over in the block diagram, you can see I get a different set of cursor items. And so if I hover over the constant, I can actually wire the constant to this string box, and that's how I can move data from one item to the next in LabView. Let's type in something as our string constant. So I'm going to type in hello world, and that's all I need to do to basically write a very simple LabView program. If I were to hit run, the hello world constant data would then go across the wire over to this string display, and it would appear on the front panel. The way that we run programs in LabView is by using the run button. So I'm going to go up to the top left corner, and you can see this run arrow here. If I hit run, that's my program. So very quickly I was able to develop a very simple LabView application, and that should give you a pretty brief introduction to how LabView graphical programming works.
Okay, that's it for this brief introduction. I will have a couple follow-up videos where I will go into more depth showing you how we are going to use LabView for our labs, and then also some tips and tricks that I hope will be helpful to you. So see you soon. Bye.